justice for all.
Yep. Trustee Stauff?
I here.
Trustee Rhodey?
Here.
Trustee Belt? Here. Trustee Fader? Here. Trustee Greiser?
I am also here.
Trustee Kropowski?
Here.
President Knutson?
Here. Okay, second thing for this evening is a presentation by Teresa Thill, from the Waukesha County Center for Growth. Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you for having me here today. It's been almost a year since I was in front of you guys to talk about WCCG, so I'm delighted to be back with an update. If you give me the first slide, please, Matt. Thank you. So a quick refresher on who we are, your Waukesha County Center for Growth. So we're the economic development organization serving Waukesha County. I'm a 501c3 nonprofit organization that's funded by the municipalities. My largest funder is the county, including obviously the village here. And while I am housed at the WCBA office, that's the Waukesha County Business Alliance, or the Chamber of Commerce for the area, I am a separate organization. I have my own board and my own budget. I do get some shared services from the WCBA, rent, marketing, payroll, IT, and kind of a shared office arrangement, right? So as an investor in WCCG, the village of Pewaukee provides an investment of $5,000 to us. We have not raised our fees since 2023, and we don't intend to raise them going forward. We understand our municipal partners are cash strapped, as are we all, and we intend to pull a little more from the Grow Fund. More about the Grow Fund later. Next slide, please. So what we do, we are guided by our strategic plan called the 2025 through 2027 Business Growth Strategy. So we completed that fall of last year. That included some focus groups with our municipal partners, primary employers. And this was an effort to pull everybody together onto the main page to align goals to better utilize very tight resources. As a result, the group came together with the priorities of doing business retention and expansion. So I focus on primary employers. That's a company that sells their product or service outside the area. Here in Waukesha County, that's primarily manufacturers, but it might also be a marketing company or an IT firm. I do business retention and expansion, business attraction, although M7, our regional partner, takes the lead on that business attraction work. I manage the Grow Fund, our revolving loan fund, and I also work with our local partners to help them build capacity and to serve as their economic development arm. Next slide, please. So I run a very metric organization. If it doesn't get measured, it doesn't get done. So this is a slide that I prepare for my board every meeting with our top line goals. It talks about the number of projects. Our goal this year is 8 projects. Our goal for new and retained jobs is 60, and our goal for capital investment is 15 million. We've completed 1 project already. As a matter of fact, that was Terex in the city of Pewaukee, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later. Next slide, please. A second slide that I prepare for my board that I'm sharing with my economic development partners is our kind of next line metrics. It talks about the number of business retention visits that completed. The goal is 60 this year. It's an aggressive goal, but this goal should be aggressive. Business development assist. So an assist is basically a tick point, right? It is an experience where I provide value to a company that doesn't measure up to that top line, new jobs, new investment, new payroll. So a great example of a business assist was I met a company, a small manufacturer of specialty chocolates. She had a great retail shop in Elm Grove. She wanted to expand into doing work with the local hotels. She didn't quite have the space. So we looked for space. We looked in multiple counties for space. We couldn't find anything that fit her needs or her budget. So I connected her with the WMEP, the Wisconsin Manufacturing Extension Partnership, for about a $3,000 contract with them. She had a specialist come in and look at her manufacturing space, her production phase, and do a realignment of how she manages her inventory and how she actually does her workflow. As a result, she was able to move some things around, bring in some new equipment, and do the expansion that she wanted to, right? So it doesn't measure up in new jobs or new capital investment, but it is a way that we significantly help this company to stay in Elm Grove and to grow in Elm Grove. I'm sorry, back one, please. Community Assist is a new metric that came out of our strategic planning process, where the community said, this is great, we love it, but we want you to be able to tell us what specifically you helped us with. So as a result of that, Community Assist are specifically where I provide some technical assistance to a community. So for an example, out and about in my world, I heard about a program that helped with residential infill. So another community had developed a program where they provided housing plans for free, and they gave those to various communities, and the communities then would have a pre-permitting approval process where the developer would come in and select one of these housing plans. It would be pre-permitted, and they were ready to go in infill and provide some housing solutions, generally workforce housing solutions, because there are smaller houses in these older communities, right? So that's an example of one Community Assist. That's one way that I was able to bring an additional resource to my community partners. Talent Assist is generally where I'm able to make a referral to a manufacturer, to one of our primary employers, about some of the grants, some of the resources or training partners that we have in that world too. Next, Matt. We talked about business retention visits as being one of my primary goals. I love to get out and talk to the local companies and find out what's happening. So we've completed 32 BRE visits already, including 4 visits in the village of Pewaukee. In Pewaukee, Matt and I met with Engineered Custom Coating, Northern Stainless Corporation, Mixer Systems, and Dynex Revette. So this is an opportunity for us to sit down with the CEO, chat with him. What's going on? Where do you see opportunities? Where do you see problems? And make a great relationship with the community. Is there anything that we can help you with there? So it's a great opportunity to kind of take problems out of the way and do some relationship building as well. So business retention is absolutely critical, and I was really glad to see my community partners recognize that. Business expansion is the #1 job creator in economic development. Business attraction gets a lot of the, a lot of the media, a lot of the press. Sounds great. You all heard about Microsoft coming in and all the data centers. There's very little job creation there. We get more job creation when the engineered coatings and the Dynexes expand locally. Having these companies expand here helps us from becoming a one industry strong area, so it supports our economic stability and economic resilience. And of course, they're the ones who are generating tax revenue for our local budgets. Having done business attraction for 20 plus years, I can tell you business retention is infinitely more effective and more cost efficient. So I'm very glad to have our partners at M7 handle the majority of the budget for travel, for marketing, for entertaining, to do all the outreach that's necessary to bring these companies to us here in Waukesha County. Thanks. So I wanted to talk really quickly about a business attraction success story. Terex, this is a great example because as it was an expansion. It was looking at the local facility across the road or to their facility in Kansas City. We started working with them in October of 2023, and they just announced earlier this year. So these business attraction projects do typically take a year or longer. As a matter of fact, I worked on a project in Michigan for a very large Chinese corporation, and during the time that we were actively working on that project, the consultant had 2 children. We were very glad to land the project and the kids. So this was the project I mentioned in the top metric. They are bringing an additional 100 jobs to the area, and of course, although the project landed in the city of Pewaukee, you will see additional jobs and individuals in the village here, looking for housing, looking for great places to eat, and enjoying the amenities that you have here in the village. Next slide, please, Matt. So a quick update on our project pipeline. This covers both business retention and business expansion and business attraction projects. So I've got about 6 business expansion projects in the pipeline and 2 business attraction projects. Activity has been a little low. We've only seen 1 additional RFI from M7 in 2025. And I was talking to my friends around the country. This is what they're seeing too. There's a bit of economic uncertainty out there, and companies are not quite willing to pull the trigger on a large capital project. Well, things are uncertain regarding tariffs and legislation, and even their ability to secure workforce in this challenging time. So again, that's why business retention programs are so important, as we can make sure that we have those good relationships with our current employers. Next. So M7 did do a great event that I wanted to mention where they hosted site selection consultants in Milwaukee for a 2-day familiarization tour. This is the first time they had done this. I was able to provide them some good input from my experience working with site selection consultants, which was interesting, is that 2 of them were from Chicago, based in Chicago professionally, and had never been up to Milwaukee. So we were able to provide, I think, a broader scope of what the Milwaukee area, which includes Waukesha County, can offer, including access to the large municipalities, great airports, great workforce, great education system, housing. So that was a very successful trip. Thank you. Next one. So I mentioned the Grow Fund at the top of the presentation. This is our revolving loan fund. We now have $11.25 million in this revolving loan fund, which is a gap financing tool. We're targeting 2 types of projects. One is companies that are trying to expand in Waukesha County, and the second is developers with workforce housing projects. We had $9 million from Waukesha County, so they made a pretty significant investment into economic development here. We Energies is a contributor, so Fox Family Foundation is a contributor, and all these banks participate as well in an effort to satisfy their CRA requirements. Next slide, please. Of the 11.25 million, we have about 6.8 million deployed. Most of that, as you can see, in loan purposes, going for real estate. Some in construction. We're able to finance working capital and equipment and tenant improvements. Majority is in commercial. We have quite a few manufacturing projects. In addition, 6 of those businesses have women as primary owners. 4 have person or persons with a minority status as a primary owner. All of the loan recipients count as small businesses, less than 100 employees. And 2 of these loans are in the village of Pewaukee. One is to Engineered Custom Coatings. We helped them purchase equipment in 2020. And the other is to a company called Testarossa, and we helped them with commercial real estate in 2023.
Real quick on the loan program, 1, how does a business apply? And 2, kind of what are your terms based off of, or general?
So it is gap financing, so it's generally we can step in when a bank doesn't want to handle the majority of the project. If anybody has questions, call me first. Our loans are equivalent to banks, our partners, so we're at about 7.25%. We have a fixed rate, and we have our loan term is up to 7 years. And our loan max just got improved, so we can lend up to $750,000 or $1 million with board approval. I have a great sheet that I just did to talk about some examples that we did in 2024. So for a company called Zyogenics, we helped them put in clean room manufacturing space. We helped another company with R&D dollars and another one with T&I. For workforce housing, we're looking for projects where 30% of the units in the development are available to people making 120% or less of Waukesha's AMI. So it's been a really impressive program. We funded the Habitat for Humanity Dominica Park project, and we're seeing some good teeth there. So if anybody has any questions, you can call me first.
Thank you.
And I talked too about building local capacity. How do we help our local municipalities, as that's one of our goals. We manage the BRE programs. I respond on their behalf for business attraction prospects. So when we get a request for information from M7, it'll be under a code name. They'll tell me that there's a company looking for example, 80 acres with this type of water requirement, this type of power requirement. They're going to hire X number of people. And then we do site searches and put together an attractive package to talk about the area, to help sell the area. And again, if the package or if the project should land in Waukesha or the village of Pewaukee or Oconomowoc, what we see here in the area is those individuals are going to live all over the area. And here we have about a 60-minute average drive time. So we got pretty good coverage. I also convene the Economic Development Roundtable. That's an opportunity for my economic development partners to get together quarterly, share best practices, just kind of have a great peer-to-peer discussion and roundtable of, how have you handled this problem? What are you seeing here? Here's this great resource that I found. basically some great networking, because we've got, like Matt, some really experienced professionals in the area and some who are a little bit newer to the game. I also have access to some great data sources, including Lightcast, which is terrific for forecasting wages, employment, population, demographics, and D&B, which is a business database. Okay. Any other questions? No? Okay,
Any questions from the board?
great.
Yes, sir.
I
Thank you
guess,
very much for
do you have any other corporations in Pewaukee Village that you're targeting for the business retention meetings?
So as a matter of fact, Matt and I are talking about how we might be able to connect with some of the companies located in the village who aren't the large manufacturers. We've got the questionnaire figured out. We just need to connect on what might be a distribution method. So yes, and that came from a great conversation with Jim and Matt. We certainly try to be responsive to my investors, right? You got to get something for your money. I appreciate your investment and your time, and willing to work to make whatever requirements we can to the program to meet your needs. Okay.
Thank you.
I do have a question.
Yes.
When a new business comes to, say, the village of Milwaukee, and the residents don't actually agree with that type of business, however, they followed all the guidelines, did everything they needed to do, is there something that you could potentially help to maybe build a narrative around that this is good for the village? Is there a program you put out there to incentivize or make this look like a positive thing for the village?
So, do you have anything specific in mind for what's not desirable? I mean, because that's driven by your zoning codes. You guys determine, you guys determine that.
Follow everything properly and do everything they need to do,
Yeah.
right? And they have every freedom and every right to do what they want to do. Being a new trustee
Are you saying either a bank or a car wash?
or a dentist office,
dentist
anything that
office,
doesn't sell alcohol and serve food, nobody wants.
Correct.
But it's such a great thing for the village.
Right.
And as a newer trustee, I get approached on it all the time. Why do we need another dental office? Why do we need a car wash? Why do we need this? Why do we need that? And I was wondering if there's something out there that, as a trustee or as a village, we can guide them to it and say, well, this is why we need that, and this is how it benefits the village.
Excellent question. I don't have anything stock, but I would be delighted to put together a quick report that you could then put on your social media that talks about the benefits of job creation for the area, or the benefits of, what kind of taxation you're going to get from that particular new business. And the taxation then helps to fund the assets of the village, which the folks do, like the beautiful lake and those sidewalks that you're talking about putting in, right? So that's one of the things that people who are your constituents often forget, is these companies are generating taxes, which is revenues, which is then, supporting the schools and the library and all the amenities that they do love, and the reasons why they do live here.
Right.
Okay,
I'd appreciate that.
okay, yeah.
Thank you.
Give me a call. Matt's got my number. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it. Item 3, approval of the regular village board meeting dated July 15th, 2025. I hope everyone's had a chance to look them over. Are there any questions, comments, corrections as the way they are presented this evening? If not, do I have a motion to approve as presented?
Motion to approve the minutes from July 15th, 2025 as presented.
Second, Rhodey.
Have a motion and a second, discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I abstain.
Okay, one abstention. Item 4, citizen comments. I don't believe we have any citizens here. Okay, we'll move on to item 5 then. Review, discussion, and possible action on ordinance 2025-08, an ordinance to repeal and recreate chapter 98, article 4 of the municipal code of the village of Pewaukee regarding the aquatic weed commission. I've had this actually put on for discussion and action. I thought it was necessary that we already have it on the books that we have an aquatic weed commission. But I felt it necessary, or I thought it would be better to beef it up a little bit for, because when we look at the other things that we have in the village that are very good for the village, basically like our parks, we have a park department that handles all the intricacies of the parks, Public Works and Safety handles that. And over the years, there's been a lot of talk about early on of possibly having the citizens that live on the lake have their own commissions, and the village looked into the different available commissions or ways of doing it, and did not move forward with any of those because there was one that gave taxing availability to the people and not going through the village board. So what this is doing right now is I'm looking at this as a ordinance change so that it's similar to what the parks has, in that they can look at the equipment that's required, and if they need something, they still come to the village board if necessary. But it also takes away having Dave or Jay having to deal with people calling them, if they are calling them or not, but having to deal, and also the board members. It gives the people that live on the lake someone to call and talk to and discuss the issues. I did make a call to LPSD, talk to him about this particular item, and I said, you know, what this would do would be to make it a one-person go-to for you. In other words, because I would be making Kelly the chairman of the committee. If there's any issues on the lake that LPSD is seeing and needs to discuss with someone, they can talk to Kelly. Kelly can get it handled. If need be, talk to the DPW, talk to Matt, whoever is necessary. And it keeps it in one person to one person, which Tom, when I talked to him, said that would be fantastic, versus having everybody on the board, or 2 or 3 people on the board, going to him and saying, I heard this, I heard that, we need to do this, we need to do that. He's got enough issues on his own, and I think having one person that he can talk to and then go to would also help with the communication of working together. So I know that there's some people that may say, well, this is another layer of government that do we really need? I think we do. And the reason being is the lake is something that the village has that some of the surrounding communities don't. And it's very important. And there's been, over the years that I've been on the board, there's been talk about spraying the lake. There were meetings, a lot of meetings, that we didn't have anybody at the time on the board or in government that knew much about what was going on that particular thing. It was a learn by discussion for the board. Luckily, Charlie Shaw got involved in it and was able to instruct the board on to what was going on and what his ideas were, as he was in charge of LPSD for many, many years, and during the time when we used to do weed control with spraying, and having lived on the lake, it was called the itch, so you didn't go in the water for a while. But it's just something that I feel this particular commission would be needed to make sure that it oversees the weed controls and helps with the DPW, works with the DPW on any issues or questions they may have versus having to call everybody or anybody else on the board. They've got one person or two people that they can talk to. You got one trustee that's gonna be on the board, and Kelly, our person that would be in charge, or head of the commission. So I'm truly feeling that this is something that would be a definite plus, and it would definitely help the community understand, because there would be some people that do not live on the lake on the board that would be able to see what exactly it takes to maintain the lake quality that we have. And maybe they can also help answer questions when people have them. So with that, I will open it up to any questions. Jim, I know you have some.
You're right, because, I mean, if we want to go to buzz terms now, let's Doge this real quick for government efficiencies. So what you basically said about, comparing it to the Park and Rec Board is not correct. What this would be as if Park and Rec hired somebody to monitoring the mowing of the ball fields, and then that person had a committee that reported back to the city and the village board and kind of circumvented the public rec, or the Park and Rec Board. Because the ball fields are very important to Park and Rec, but someone has to be specifically overseeing that one element of it. So, we look at that, as well as you said at least half a dozen times about having one point person being Kelly Belt, and Trustee Belt, sorry, and she would be the point person to field questions, to work with LPSD, all that. But then you say it's vital that we have another commission and committee. So that is kind of countering your point there to say that we need this commission and committee, but we need one person to be able to field questions, to work with Tom Kep, to work with everyone else. So that aside, then on top of it, we kind of blur the line of, what is the weed commission's responsibility and what is public works responsibility. And I look at it going, all you're doing is assembling another commission. Now we want to get into the waste part of it. We've now approved stipends for committee members, residents and committee members, as well as taking time for other staff that has to be at these commission meetings. We had on the agenda tonight on the Public Works Board to set a standard quarterly meeting, because it is difficult to pull quorums together on short notice, or on any notice in general with citizen boards. So now you're running the risk of, you have one person, can they pull together a meeting, and then we're paying those people to show up for maybe one or two agenda items, but you said that chairman person has the autonomy to make decisions and report them back. So yes, I feel this creates a level of inefficiency and waste and everything else. I would be in favor, seeing as how Trustee Belt is now on the Public Works Board, leave her in the liaison role to work specifically with LPSD and Tom Kep. She is the point person for the weeds, because if you want to talk about, you think it's easier to streamline it and not fielding questions, I actually fielded a question from a property owner last week that said, I have a complaint about the weeds, and I said, good news, you can find Trustee Belt's email and phone number on the website. She is in charge of the weed control. You can reach out to her. That was simple enough. I don't feel the need for another committee to grind decisions to not a halt, but a snail's pace, because they have to hear it. Then they don't have approval process, so they would have to recommend up to the board for anything. Meanwhile, DPW is in a standstill over what they can do. I feel Trustee Belt is already on the Public Works Board. The Public Works Board consists of over 3/4 of the members that are lake residents or actively participating in activities on the lake, such as Trustee Hill, who used to be on the Pewaukee Lake Advisory Committee even. I don't feel the need for another subcommittee. I was against this when Trustee Krasovich proposed it. She proposed it originally just as a feedback session originally to get input from the residents. I believe we've taken that input. I believe DPW has implemented that input. I have the utmost confidence in our current DPW regarding weed control. This was a bigger issue when we had the former heads of staff that were adamantly opposed to change or recognition of issues on the lake. I don't feel we are in the same space that we were when Trustee Krasovich brought this up 2 years ago. I just see this as adding a level of inefficiency and waste and time and everything else when Trustee Belt could be in the same exact position now without forming another subcommittee.
Point of clarification, doesn't the weed commission already exist?
Yes, it does.
Ordinance in place?
Yes,
It does.
So it's an existing,
It is an existing item, I just added more to it.
It was created when Trustee Krasovich
Okay.
brought it forward a couple years ago.
Well, actually, the commission itself, I think the date on the ordinance is like 1967 or something like that. So it's been around, but it's been relatively defunct.
okay.
Yeah, is there a historical element of that commission and like how it exists today? I'm not familiar with, are they?
As it exists today, it doesn't exist today,
It- so
except
it's
on
not.
paper.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
So when I look at adding layers of government, and again, this one exists, even if it was on paper, I'm for small and efficient government operation, and adding this layer, I questioned it immediately, but then I started to look at the efficiency piece, and that's where I really came to look at this a little bit differently. That the whole weed operation is a very seasonal operation, happens in a 4 to 5 month period of time. It's really, the equipment is completely different. The cleanup that they're doing is completely different from what Dave and Jay do right now. They should be concentrating on the roads, okay? And in the pipes in the ground, things like that. Lake is completely different, and I look at this as with it being so seasonal and such a small period of time, but it's a really intense period of time where where it's very noticeable, and if it's not properly done, they're wasting their time taking care of comments like that from consumers. So then I started thinking, well, is it more efficient to have an operational commission that does handle those things? And it started to make more and more sense to me. And Trustee Grabowski, I know it's, I get the part about the reporting or liaison responsibilities with the Public Works, but yet when I look at the number of meetings that the Public Works has, granted, this year might be different, you'll have 4 this year, but past years, 2003, 2004, you've been having 3 meetings a year. Okay, and is that leading to efficiency when it comes to a seasonal operation that needs to be addressed immediately? And it seems like that specialized attention is something that is beneficial to the village. And so I look at this as actually being, and it's unlike me to add another layer of government, but this seems to make sense to me.
Can we run down how the process works now? If a lake resident or any resident has an issue with the aquatic weeds, they would contact Matt. Matt, you would possibly refer them to who?
I would absolutely refer them to the DPW.
Okay. So now, if it was specific to the weeds, you would refer them to DPW, and then Chairman Grabowski, the DPW
committee would refer to Kelly, right?
Kelly currently works with LPSD. That's how it's been structured outside of, prior to this even committee being formed. She's currently working with LPSD.
Right.
And then their Public Works handles the weed collection. So I'm sorry, I'm not speaking for, but so she would be the liaison go-to, so that role would not change. Now, what I'm saying is, nothing would actually change by not approving this. And I think the weed collection, and I think Jay specifically has done a fantastic job with assembling a fantastic team and his oversight and supervision of it. And then with Trustee Belt working closely with Tom Kep of LPSD, who also handles the Delafield side, I see zero need to instill another committee to then throw confusion into residents of going, okay, well, do I call Public Works on this? Do I call Village Hall? Do I call a weed commission? And then weed commission, as you know, and Trustee Rhodey brought up, is a very seasonal, small window. Now you have to be able to be responsive. Now Matt and, you know, whoever has to reach out and say, hey, we need a quorum real quick, we need to determine this. Or if it's still falling on Trustee Belt to make that connection, those communications, that doesn't change by not having this commission.
Versus like, so having the commission adding multiple people.
Correct, because now it's like, all right, you form a commission of 5 or 7 people. Okay, hey, there's an issue with the weeds. We have this, get this taken care of. God, I hope there's 4 people that can show up to a meeting on Wednesday at 6 p.m.
Can you also give us a quick overview on why this wouldn't fall under the Lake Advisory Board's jurisdiction?
The who?
The Lake Advisory Board?
That Lake Advisory Board is strictly from the patrols. Lake Patrol.
That's it.
Oh,
Exclusively for the
Lake
patrol.
It's
Lake Patrol, rules, regulations.
Yes.
They put out the 200 markers, no swimming areas. They do all of that stuff. This has nothing to do with that at all. This is what I'm trying to do here is, in the past, a lot of people have contacted different board members and said, you know, I've contacted this member and I have not got anything back. Then they contact another member and then it's another member. This way, with the weed commission, it would be on the board, it would be in our website, that they could go to this site, talk to Kelly, talk to Nick, and they could then get together with them and figure out what's going on. Now, right now it's a 5-member, I think, that we were gonna go up to, so 3 members would only have to be there for a quorum. So getting 3 people together, I don't think would be a problem. And I agree with Trustee Rhodey that it's such a small time frame, but it's such a big thing to have to do in that small time frame. Again, talking with, yes,
Sorry,
go ahead, please.
Is the biggest piece having the point, in your opinion, Mr. President, to have the point person who it sounds like is currently Trustee Belt, or in this scenario would be Trustee Belt, or is it more about having support with like multiple people together?
It's having the point person, but it's also having the support behind the point person. Because I don't think it's fair to just say, okay, Trustee Belt, you're it. Everything falls and dies with you. If you don't do your job, you're the one that's to blame. Plus, it also brings in people that are not on the lake, because in this ordinance, we only have 1 member on the Park Avenue and 1 on Cobbmeyer. Trustee Belt's on Park Avenue, and Nick, are you on Copmeyer? No, okay. Well, we'd have, we might have a person here on Cop, we can't, you're a trustee. But we'll find someone to go on to Copmeyer. And the others will be off of the lake. So it's a way for them to learn, okay, it's not like people just get on this thing and they ride around. This is what actually happens. So when they go to places or meet other people, they can help with explaining to them what they're learning. And it's a backup for her.
But that's literally the
Can I-
Public Works
yeah, go ahead,
Board right
go ahead.
now, literally.
Just with living in Cotmeyer, I can't tell you how many of my neighbors have come over while I'm still drinking coffee in my jammies on my back porch to complain about the weeds or to say something about the weeds. And I always say, like, okay, like, send in an email, how can I help you? And I do think a checklist of who they go to, who they talk to, what meeting they can attend to help the situation would be very good and very helpful. I don't know what the best solution is, or even if there is one, but I keep returning to, and anytime I speak with any of my neighbors, is they just want to be heard. And I'm not certain that they feel heard. So.
But there is a process to be heard now, right?
What's that?
There is a process to be heard about a weed issue now. Would that be to go to DPW?
Well, usually they contact a trustee.
Yeah,
They contact me.
yeah.
Sometimes they'll call staff. And I don't know, Dave, did they ever call you? Okay, they call Dave.
Or they call me.
And,
Like, I mean,
I said trustees, so you're included. But this way, if we've got a commission, now we've got a group of people that, if need be, they can contact them.
So,
And that can be worked out with them. That frees up his time, that frees up his time, and it frees up the other trustees in that, like, you're new on it, and some of the other trustees are new on it, and you don't really know what to do from there.
So I'm not,
It's just, I don't want to keep repeating myself, it's just, I don't feel it's a layer of government that is not a waste of, it's a waste of time, it's not a waste of time. I agree with Trustee Rhodey, it's such a small fraction of time that this has to be taken care of, and there's so much involved in it that I think this commission is needed, and having talked to one individual, and that's Mr. Kapp, who's been on the public LPSD for the longest time, he felt it was a good idea. He thinks that having the commission overseeing it, because they have somewhat similar situation over there, but they have two different communities that they're dealing with.
right.
So,
I don't think the intention should be to have a point person, because I think we have one. If we could just decide on, hey, this is where they should go, we should just funnel those requests to this. What I would like to better understand is possibly what the authority of the commission would be and how that would help benefit the beautification of the lake and the removal of the weeds in a more efficient manner than just referring it to another commission that makes this a small part of it. Because what I think we all have agreed on, this is a big deal. I mean, Pewaukee Lake, the village of Pewaukee, that's our main attraction. We should make this somewhat of a focus and not so much of a who's the point person.
well, I think I'm just using Kelly as the point person because it would be a good situation to have the other people involved too, and Bob, I think.
Yeah, I guess the thing I want to emphasize again is that the thought behind this Aquatic Weed Commission is that this commission's sole responsibility is going to be the lake.
Right.
okay?
Right.
And their focus is going to be on that lake, especially during that period of time, that 4 to 5 months of intense work and activity that has to be done. In regard to control, the concerns about quorums, I think whether it's the Public Works Committee or this, both are going to have, we'll always have to deal with issues with quorum. And then the last thing I did want to say is I do like the directional composition of the committee that asks or suggests that there be a member from Park and from Kupmeyer. Quite honestly, Bob on Glacier Road has no idea what you're putting up with, or Rachel, what you're putting up with on Kupmeyer when it comes to weeds. I really don't. And it's important to have that composition.
So to piggyback on that, so I think if this was to come to fruition, I feel like every single member should be on the lake. Like, I totally agree. I think there's people who don't have any idea what, like, the problem is. Yeah, maybe I went out on a boat and my, prop got stuck or whatever, but like, it's a totally different scenario than coming up to your property and seeing it, like, on your own property. So I would say they should all be on the lake if this becomes, but really, I think like the point person, if it is like funneling, I suppose my question would be like, if there is this commission, what are they doing? Are they just, are they just funneling all the information to DPW because they're not getting on, the weed cutters or anything like that, right? So
No.
if we just need one person to filter all the info and then send whatever it is, a weekly email to DPW or whatever, whoever can actually take action on it, because we know what the complaints are about the weeds, like, we're already aware of them, right? And so if it's just how many complaints are we getting, how bad is it in certain areas per the residents, like, I understand that concept, to have it filtered through one person so they can really understand like the gravity of the situation year over year. But if they're just funneling it then to the people that are actually taking the action, it feels like we're putting too many steps in the chain for something that is urgent because it's such a short window.
Well,
That's my opinion.
what we're Jim, I'll get to you in just a second. I just want to answer the question.
Yeah.
If you look at the green areas that have been added to it, the commission will also be recommending equipment, methods used on control of aquatic weeds, including but not limited to use, location, storage, and purchase of equipment utilized in weed collection, and district from time to time any matter involving aquatic weed control where the interests of the village would directly benefit from such joint subjects and efforts. They would also be talking about spraying the lake, doing things of that nature, if we need to do it or not do it. It would be, hopefully, I'm looking at it as something where, as time progresses, the people that are on that commission will have so much knowledge about weed control, and when we get invasive weeds in there, or any other issue that may arise due to the weeds, they'll be able to help handle that, and that relieves those two gentlemen and that gentleman at staff from trying to get all that knowledge as to what can we do, what can't we do. Because I do remember going to the meetings when we had the milfoil, and people wanted to spray the whole lake, then they didn't want to spray the whole lake. Then they wanted to spray in front of their house, then they didn't want to spray in front of their house. Then who's gonna pay for it? And all those things, that is what these people would be doing. Not just taking complaints, but they would be overseeing the controlled factor of the weeds.
You
But are
feel,
they the experts in it? Like, I still feel like I would want to come
you
back
feel
to
this
you.
board would supersede Tom Kep's opinion on lake weeds and remediation?
No, I don't think we would, but then again,
Okay.
with the commission working with Tom Kep, but we also,
Correct, the
as
point person.
it comes to Tom Kep, he only has he has the city and the town of Delafield, city of Pewaukee.
Which
town of
represents
Delafield.
85% of
What
our
we
lake.
do here can be totally different than what they do.
Okay, well,
That's why.
It's a moving body of
feel
water,
this
wouldn't
is-
we all want to work together?
exactly.
Right.
So, just getting back to where you're saying about they're making the recommendations about aquatic weed patrol and equipment being purchased and all that stuff, I come back to your comparison to the Park and Rec and my example of forming a ball field mowing committee. Because all of a sudden now that ball field mowing committee gets to go to the city to say, we want new mowers, we want new this, we want new that. And they're even though they are Park and Rec employees, Park and Rec equipment, Park and Rec through and through. So they're circumventing the Park and Rec board, just like this would be making recommendations for new weed collection, equipment, labor hours, all that. It also comes out of the DPW budget. Road crew guys are on the lake and cleaning weeds. That is DPW budget. DPW equipment is hauling this equipment out. DPW mechanic is working on this equipment. DPW trucks are down there collecting it. This is DPW. You described a board of being made up of some lake residents, some not, one from this side, one from that side. You literally just described the DPW board. You described a board that has a point person to be able to. You literally just described the DPW board. You are literally replicating the DPW board in a smaller form. Why is my question. And I get that we don't have to worry about quorum. Fine, take that example off of the table. There's still 13 other reasons why we don't need to put in, and I will never, it's not just this. I don't care. I was happy when I got that call about the weeds and I said, please contact Trustee Belt. She is the liaison for our weed collection. I had the biggest smile on my face getting to pass off that responsibility. I don't see the need to recreate boards and put more layers in, and I will argue that every single time possible because it chaps my you-know-what when you have to wait weeks, months, whatever, to go through a process. Not saying that's going to be here, but what I'm saying is you are recreating the DPW board in a smaller form, and you're saying about having a point person which exists now, so which brings me up to the final point of what is not working right now with the weed collection that you feel the need that we need to resurrect and create this committee? Because the way I see it now, and I will ask that to Jay and I'll ask that to Trustee Belt, what is not working in your opinion right now that you feel we need to add 4 more opinions on another committee that you can't handle at the moment? Jay?
I believe it's working.
Trustee Belt?
Yeah, I've got some other points here to make too. I've just kind of been listening to everyone to get everyone's opinion, and I honestly see both sides of it. I don't think that anything is not working right now, but we also currently have a very reliable staff, and that can change in the snap of a finger. Snap of the fingers. That something can happen
better
to
not.
one of these 2 great gentlemen. Having that backing there provides some value. Yes, you can get that off of the DPW board too. Again, I see both sides of it. I see the layer of government. I agree with Bob's synopsis of this is a unique small time frame in the grand scheme of the year and kind of a specialized thing. Looking at just some of the points here is the overall lake assessment and health of the lake. I do think having some people dedicated to that and learning that knowledge of the lake, the knowledge that Tom Kep has of the lake is huge. He knows the weed species. He knows what's invasive. He knows what's not. He knows how to stop the invasive growth, what to do. He monitors the lake. He's monitoring his part of the lake because he has that knowledge base, and he has the crew to do it with his son kind of taking up over, stepping in and taking over the lake side of things for LPSD. He's got that knowledge base too. So I do think it would be great for on the village side for us to start getting some of that knowledge too. Again, Tom Kep's not going to be there forever either. So I think developing that foundation and forward thinking is to what those, into some of those things also, that we can better manage what we have here along with LPSD and what they do and the processes that they have in place for overall control, and processes that they have and the strategies that they use, I think is important for the two entities, really three, with the three municipalities that are on the lake. So no, nothing isn't working right now. I am in complete agreement with that. It's working great, but again, we have great, reliable people on our DPW staff that are willing to take the time on the lake, which we know historically we haven't had, and we could fall back into that same bucket again. So having that backup, if you will, I think could be helpful. As far as the structure of the board that Kristen brought up, with it only being lake residents, the reason why we're bringing in non-lake residents is because I do think that there is value in alternative knowledge, and I also think it helps that people that don't live on the lake, they don't understand. I don't want to say they don't understand it. I don't want to talk down that they don't understand it, but it's another way for people to gain some knowledge, and we can get some outside perspective. You know, I might be a little tunnel visioned and too focused on, particularly on the lake, where an outside person off the lake can have maybe a little bit more objective opinion than what I can have, because it personally affects me, right? And I think that also would help non-lake residents to really understand what goes into the lake. Historically, we have had trustees that don't understand really what it is like to go out there and hoof weeds out of your shoreline. They act like it was like it's our weeds, that we planted those there and that we have to take them out, and that tax dollars from non-lake residents shouldn't go to help in that effort. So I think that's where some of the value of having non-lake residents on the board does help on kind of both sides of those things. So I am one too that doesn't particularly like adding a layer of government. So again, I see pros and cons to both. I've enjoyed working with Jay and Dave, but they're doing a great job. We had complaints at the beginning of the season. You two are telling me that people have complained to you. They haven't come to me. I haven't gotten a complaint in weeks. So whether they just like to jaw jack and then mosey on, we've had the usual suspects, the same couple people at the beginning part of the year. But I think the residents have we've been responsive and sympathetic to them. So those are the positives that I see to it.
Although you bring up a good point though, because somebody called me from Public Works to complain, I forwarded them to you and they didn't reach out to you. So which means now they're sitting there feeling like they weren't heard, and that we just instilled another level that they couldn't get the question answered, or they couldn't get their voice heard for me to pass it on. I just kicked the can down the road, which is the issue I have with every single subcommittee every local government creates.
So I always feel knowledge is power. What if, and I know this probably sounds really archaic, but what if like at the beginning of the summer, there was, I don't know, something that you guys put together to present to lake residents of when you guys actually get out there and cut weeds, or what it looks like, or what it all entails, because we may see you guys park all your equipment at the end of Kottmeyer, but if someone asked me if I know how it works, the answer would be no. And you guys are genuinely doing a fantastic job. No matter what other people say, I'm a very low maintenance lake person, but I understand like the lake is a petri dish of its own. So thank you for doing what you all do. But with knowledge being power, like, how can we push this information out to lake residents to inform them about how this works? How?
Well, when we have our new Facebook page, we'll be able to.
Perfect. Or like, could we do like a little meeting or like, I don't know, online PowerPoint? I know that sounds so silly, but
No, it's true.
people really want to know, like, when do these weed cutters get out? And I know because I can hear them, but if someone asked me what time, I would say, oh, it's usually, it's in
It
the
has been
morning.
communicated to them over the years, to lake
Okay.
residents. There has been specific mailers that have gone out to lake residents as to what the policy is, when they're going to pick up pellets, what the priorities are for the given days, and when weed service is going to end. The information is out there.
Okay.
I just don't particularly think that a lot of the lake residents like the information.
Everyone likes breakfast sausage. Nobody likes to know how it's made.
I think I think that I love the idea to, like, at the beginning of every summer, remind people of the information. I think that's a great takeaway. I think Tom Kep, everyone knows, is such a wealth of knowledge. Like, how can we document what he knows and put it in form so that if someone can reference it in the future? I think those are like great takeaways, and maybe even staff could help with that, like an interview or something, if that's not
Good news, his
been
son
done.
is
He gave me a weed book this thick for the Lake of Pewaukee to read.
Okay.
Oh, I have it on my
Yeah.
table. You can have it.
Yay, light reading.
Oh, Bob, you have it too.
I guess,
I think,
Bob and Kelly, I never thought of this, but they really hit the nail on the head. Right now, things are working perfectly, because we do have two people that care about the lake. For the new members, this is something different.
Well, I've been living here 15 years.
Before that,
We couldn't swim sometimes.
yeah.
Because of the weeds.
Before
Yeah.
that, we had a DPW director and his assistant that really, they tried their best, but they were not, the lake was like, we don't really care about it. They were more concerned about the roads and that, so.
Jeff,
I just think this is something that's truly needed. Maybe it's not needed now, but what happens?
I agree.
2
We
or 3
need
years
a
from
point
now?
person. We need
I
a-
think it needs something, we need to have some commission that people can come to or call or whatever on the website. And it's just, I'm,
Well, like I said, I'm worried it's not gonna get down to them, and we do need a point person. I agree with that wholeheartedly, because Tom doesn't need to work with the whole board, as well as he also works with the Lake Advisory Board. He works with anything that has to do with the lake. Tom works with them, and thank God, his son has a high acumen just like him. We do need a point person specifically to work with LPSD. I don't feel we need a whole nother committee to recreate it, but, sorry, Kristen.
no, you're good. So I think we have established, right, we need a point person, and it sounds like we already have one, so that's terrific, and maybe just filtering that information out a little bit more would be helpful. I think, President Knudsen, to your point of that things are working right now, that is my concern about doing this now, that taking away some of that decision-making factor from the gentlemen who are doing such a great job right at the moment seems counterproductive, that we don't, especially when, I understand your point about having tunnel vision and other people bringing them on, but if we're expecting them to be the experts, that worries me. If it's more of a learning aspect when things are going better than I recall it being in the past few years. So I would prefer to let the experts kind of lead the way, and then if we need to funnel and do more education, that would be my opinion at this time.
did you have a point, Bob?
Yeah, I think we've probably talked this to death, okay? And so I think it's just time for us to make a decision.
Yep.
Let's get it done with.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'd like to make a motion that we adopt ordinance 2025-08 to repeal and recreate Chapter 98, Article 9 of the Municipal Code of the Village of Pewaukee.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I have one comment to make before the vote. I think we all can agree that the beautification of the lake and the control of the lake and what is being done right now is a big, big, big portion of this community. And I think if we're allowed to spend a little more time and attention to that to make sure it continues now and into the future, and doing it so in once to twice, maybe 3 times a year with a limited board, I think it's a great idea.
Can I ask just for, I guess, maybe somewhat of a point of clarification? I mean, if we don't approve the revisions, the old ordinance is still,
Correct.
In
You still
effect.
have you still have an aquatic weed commission on the books, correct?
But we don't have an aquatic weed commission, is that true?
It exists, you're authorized to have it.
I was
As-
appointed to it in a meeting a couple
No,
months ago.
I believe the board tabled that
No.
appointment.
No, that appointment.
But it's,
So then you have a one-member commission then.
Okay, so
yeah,
Which is what we've operated.
She's powerful.
Which is what we've operated with for the past 2 years.
okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the ordinance as written. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Okay, sounds like the ayes have it. Okay, ordinance 2025-08 is hereby adopted. Item 6, resolution, review, discussion, and possible action on resolution 2025-12, a resolution authorizing the issuance and sale of up to $538,038 general obligation water system promissory note series 2025 and providing other details and covenants with respect thereto and approval of related $1,076,76 financial assistance agreement. Are there any questions about this on the board? Would you like to hear from does anybody need an explanation as to what is going on?
We might need a point person to field complaints about water quality, though.
If there aren't any, would somebody like to make a motion? I hear crickets. So it sounds like you want to hear what's going on.
I'll make a motion to pass the resolution authorizing the issuance and sale. Do I have to say all the numbers?
You can just say the resolution as presented.
Okay, the resolution as presented.
Second, Rhodey.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion is hereby adopted. Resolution 2025-12. Review, discussion, and possible action to approve the written decision regarding JM 1405 LLC's CO Kevin Yankee petition appealing the 2024 Village of Pewaukee Fire EMS fee for real property located at 205 Prospect Avenue, Yankee and Son Funeral Home, and having tax ID number PWV 0896069. Again, is there anybody on the board that has any questions or comments? If not, well, I'll look for a motion.
Like to make a motion to approve the written decision regarding JM 1405 LLC's with owner Kevin Yankee's petition appealing the 2024 Village of Pewaukee Fire and EMS fee assessment.
Second, Stauff.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is hereby carried. Reviewed, under new business, review, discussion, and possible action to hire a consultant to prepare water supply service area plan per NR 854 to review future sources of drinking water for village. Are there any questions or comments as it relates to this?
I mean, I think there should be some context put to it, right? Or does everyone have no well, I guess you were all pretty much sat in on the Public Works meeting. So are we okay? Never mind.
I'm good.
Yeah. Yeah.
It makes sense long-term that we have to understand what our options are in the future. And while nobody wants to spend money on these type of things, it's important that we do it to have a better understanding of what our options are. So I really don't think we have any choice.
For those who may view this online, the Public Works Board voted in favor of approving this just because it's in our best interest to piggyback off the city's study to have this done for a feasibility purpose so that we know if we do have any option going forward. Because as was discussed in the meeting, the largest output of village dollars and potential debt going forward is probably going to be our water. And so it's one way or the other. However, keeping it status quo and band-aiding and fixing and keeping up with DNR regulations as we go, that may never go away. So at least this will tell us if we have another path that we can pursue.
Would someone like to make a motion?
I will make a motion to hire a consultant to prepare a water study service area plan per NR 854 to review future water sources of drinking water for the village.
Second, Peter?
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion is hereby adopted. Review, discussion, and possible action to approve contract for well number 7, design and bidding services proposal for engineering services. Again, are there any questions or comments as it relates to this particular item? If not, I will look for a motion then. Either to approve or deny.
Motion to approve contract for well 7 design and bidding, services proposal as presented.
Second, Rhodey.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion is hereby carried. Review, discussion, and possible action to approve a contract for well number 6, PFAS study and pre-design report proposal for engineering services. Again, are there any questions or comments as it relates to this particular item? Yes, sir.
Trustee Grabowski, just to make me feel better,
If it's about our wells, I can't do that, so.
what we,
It's about spending a lot of money.
yeah, I understand, we're just throwing it, well, no, we're not throwing it away, but we're spending it for sure. But what, the action that we just approved with the consultant being hired, this is a plan to stop these Band-Aids, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's, as, you know, Dave could get into more of the minutia and details if you want, but yeah, it's the means to the ends. The ends is getting clean water to the village. One may be a longer means to that end, or an endless, you know. The other one might be an expensive one, but could have an end point of which then it's an investment and with an ROI eventually.
Right.
So,
Thank you.
yeah, because as of right now, the way I see it, we're throwing good money after bad money. Like, it's just going to be a perpetual issue, you know,
Yeah.
and that's nothing that is on the village. That's just unfortunately the geographical area and the former business practices of certain companies.
Might
that
be
we-
time just to buy a new car. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Do I have any action on this particular subject?
Motion to approve the contract for well 6 PFAS study and pre-design report as presented.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion is hereby carried. Review, discussion, and possible action on permanent sanitary sewer and water main easement for the Glen at Pewaukee Lake. Again, any questions or comments? Bob?
Yeah, based on the analysis that has been given us, both from Dave, from our attorney, from our village administrator, why would we approve this?
Yes, Matt, go ahead.
Okay, so this is being proposed tonight. Thank you for the question, Trustee Rhodey. In this development, we have private streets but public infrastructure. So the village needs to be able to get at the water mains to repair them in the future and able to maintain them. So my understanding is there were 3 lots or 4 lots, 30 through 33, that weren't involved in the original easement, and so we're adding them. So there already was an easement for us to get at infrastructure prior, but it just didn't cover these 3 lots. There is some additional language that has staff divided, and I think that's what you're referring to, where about how restoration costs are handled. So you pretty much have the spectrum in the room tonight, where from my experience, whatever party disturbs the land is the party that should be restoring it. So if the village is doing it for village projects, historically, that's what I've seen in other communities. Dave, the director of the DPW, has got some concerns that are in the memo. I don't know, Dave, if you want to speak to those. And I guess
before Dave talks, I just wanted some background on the status quo. So there is an existing easement in the Glen. As Matt pointed out, it does not encompass all of the areas where we have infrastructure. It's missing a couple of the lots. It's also deficient in some other respects, in that it only references sanitary sewer in some areas and water main in the others. So it was not drafted well. I don't know who drafted it, to be honest with you, but it is deficient. So the status quo is we do need an updated easement there. Something needs to be approved. Whether or not what we're bringing here is a request from the developer to consider a change to the restoration language. And really what we're looking for from the board is yes or no. And if the message is no, that's what we take back to the developer and say, we're not going to change what is in there on that aspect. Dave's got concerns, so I want to make sure he has a chance to air them.
So Matt and I met, and I wanted to be careful not to state the wrong information or the things that aren't relevant to it. I like Matt and Matt have said, yes, there's some areas that need to be added to the boundary of the easement. That's pretty straightforward of a change that should be done. And then I guess there are some other areas that you noticed. Then to me, it sounds like the developer wants to add in other changes, which are beyond what I think was fair to the village. But I don't know how much further to go with that.
Can you state why it's unfair?
I think that without trying to get, I don't want to, if I go too far, feel free to.
Yeah, so I'll set the table. So what the developer is asking for is so the status quo right now is that the village is not responsible for restoration costs if we go in there and do work on any account. What they have asked for is a softening of that language to say, okay, if the village goes in to repair the infrastructure that directly benefits Glen properties in there, we'll take care of that. But if the village is going in there, disturbing areas to upgrade the system, resize the system, do a whole overhaul of the system, we don't want to be responsible for that. The village should be responsible for those restoration costs. So that's the language that's being proposed, Dave.
So at first glance, that might seem that it sounds reasonable, but I mean, I like to look at, when I look at a development, there's a lot of approvals that happen with a lot of different agreements, and Matt initially talked to him, don't want to bring up and reopen everything up, but I think that the village already has made concessions in other agreements that I feel probably could have went the other way, where the developer would have been, or the residents would have been responsible for those things. So don't want to get into specifics.
Yeah, I mean, my comments that the administrator puts in the memo referencing my not wanting to get into other areas of the development, I just don't think I don't necessarily disagree with Dave's concerns, I don't. My comment is, I don't think this is the tool to, if they want this, to ask for something else. I think the board should just say, look, this is what the developer is proposing, we like this change, and it's a yes or no. I don't think we need to negotiate other portions of the developments that are closed at this point. That doesn't make sense to me.
I could say reasons specific about the asphalt.
Sure.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I guess.
sure.
So we get pulled into a lot of trip and fall. So once the village has to come in there and, let's just say the water main breaks, that is definitely an interest, village-wide, could be construed as a village-wide problem. And so we would have to go and repair the asphalt on any main break. That's gonna be, and that actually, the village also, anytime a water service breaks, so we would repair the water service up to the curb stop valve box, which is normally at the back of sidewalk. So it's gonna be in their front yard. So then the resident in the village is responsible from the curb stop valve box, which is kind of in the area behind the sidewalk. There's no sidewalk in this development, to their house. So like me, 95% of the opportunities where there's gonna be a water main break, it's going to be the village having to repair and restore the area with this change. So, you know, it's new development, things aren't gonna happen for a long time, most likely, but, so then once we get in there, when we have to go in there and repair asphalt, you know, we're gonna patch it. Usually we would be patching it. You know, there's people aren't gonna be happy with patches. So those deteriorate faster, or, you know, that somebody trips and falls out there, this is another issue that we might get pulled into that. We're already dealing with that, several of those ongoing. I just don't want to create more opportunities that we'd have to get pulled into that. There's no sidewalks out there. Everyone's going to be walking in the road. Because that was cheaper for the development when it initially got approved. So, you know, every time there's not a smooth area of asphalt, we might have to go out and take a look at it and be asked to throw some pot fill or some asphalt in there. So,
And the key thing to remember, this is a private road.
this is a private road, yeah. They have to do their own snow plowing out there. And I'll be careful not to go into the other issues that I would think. I guess I'll stop there, but.
Well, I mean, if there are issues related to restoration.
Oh,
I
yeah,
guess,
restoration, yeah, right.
Yeah, that you can go all day.
Yeah. Typically, on easements, we don't want to have to, you know, if people start putting trees and bushes in easements, we don't want to have to replace those either. Because people go and plant things in easements and they're not supposed to. It happens all the time. They go put retaining walls in the water main easements. They plant trees and bushes and patios. And then when the water main breaks, we're going to have to go and people are going to expect those items to also be replaced the way they were before. So
My biggest concern is when this development went in, we were looking at sewer and water mains. I believe we enlarged everything, so there was a chance the development on JK, that would, if that ever developed, that would be able to handle that? Is that, or did it not occur, and this could be something that could come up in the future?
from what I
That's
know
why
right
you're
now, I don't
looking
think
at
we would.
possibly.
Yeah, from what I know right now, we wouldn't be running any utilities through this particular site to get out to that area.
Okay.
The sewer that's still being studied or will be studied in the future, but that's at the end of High Street or Cecilia Drive.
Okay.
So for sewer.
Since you're the expert in this area, would it make you more comfortable if instead of doing a permanent or forever easement, it would be like a 5-year easement to test the waters? I don't even know if that's an option.
No, so that's not even the question. And we want a permanent easement. That's what we want.
We just don't want
Village-
the responsibility.
We just don't want what the board should be focused on is the narrow issue of restoration responsibility. And what the developer has asked is for a softening of the status quo language. I don't necessarily have an objection to that. Dave does. I'm not really taking a position on the language. I'm taking a position on keep your focus narrowed. Do you want to allow that or not? And if you don't, that's fine. We deny the easement as presented and take that message back to the developer and say the board is not on board with that change.
So just to recap, the easement was originally put in place with their responsibility for restoration.
Correct.
But 3 lots were forgot.
Correct. And there's other deficiencies in the current easement as well.
Who forgot? They submitted without those lots, is that true?
I don't believe I don't recall who prepared the original easement. I don't know if it was our engineer or theirs.
So everyone signed up to the original easement, but now, since these lots were missed, they're looking for the opportunity to change the easement for everything.
Is it just because they
that
were,
correct?
they were just listed as outlots before and not being developed?
These 3 or 4 lots, and this is off of memory, so don't quote me on this. I believe in the original subdivision design, I don't think there was that access road going over these 4 lots. So this is on the south side of the development going out. And I don't believe the original plan called for a road there or infrastructure there. So it may, in an update at a later, it was added in, but not to the easements.
But
So
the
I don't know if
original-
there was anybody's fault that it was missed, but it has to be fixed now.
But the original easement was signed with the restoration on their responsibility.
Correct.
And now they're trying to change the entire easement for all the properties.
Correct.
Why do you think that's happening? Was the
They want-
easement kind of a negotiation piece to allow the development to happen and pass?
I'm guessing it's because this opened the door to the
Yeah.
discussion, and they figured, well, you cracked it, let's step through.
Right.
So we have an opening to change words for all of it, opposed to just addressing these 3 lots.
Right.
I would agree with that assessment, that they're changing it, might as well make the ask.
Jim, did this go through Public Works and Safety? It did not.
But I will, you agree with them making the ask, I will make the denial. Motion to deny.
Second, Stout.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second, Stout.
Okay, we have a motion to deny. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion is hereby carried to deny. Thanks, Jim. Okay, discussion of possible action to confirm committee board appointments by the village president on the Aquatic Weed Commission. I have 2 trustees. I have Nick and trustee Belt, who will be the chairperson. I'd like to have those 2 on the Aquatic Weed Commission, please.
Motion to approve, Rhodey.
Second, Peter?
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any comments? All in favor?
My vote is not gonna be in any reflection of these appointees, but in my stance on adding another duplicate board, just for the record.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Okay, motion is hereby carried. Review the discussion and possible action on new Class B beer license, Class B intoxicating liquor, Doritos Deli LLC, DBA Doritos, location at 115 Main Street, which I can't wait to open. Are there any questions or comments as it relates to that particular item?
Is that how you pronounce it? Is it Doritos or Doritos?
Doritos.
Doritos? Okay.
Do I have a motion?
So this is like a full liquor license,
This,
or is it just beer and wine?
it's all of it.
How is that?
He wants the whole thing, he wants.
But I
the
don't think that we have
reserve.
licenses available.
We do,
Oh, okay.
yes. This was from 4-Star, they closed, they
Oh,
did
I
not
see.
renew.
Oh, that's
Yep, so
right.
this is another reserve that didn't renew. so he would have to pay the $10,000 plus the $600.
And so then that doesn't have to go through the posting process because it
Already was.
It
It
did-
was
it
already.
did
Yep,
the whole posting
yep. I
process and
posted it in the
everything.
paper 3 consecutive days. He waited the 15 days.
and no one else applied.
No, but we've had 2 come in since that are interested as well, and I told them the process.
And those 2 missed the deadline?
Yes.
All right.
Make a
Snooze, you
motion to, oh, sorry.
I just said snooze, you lose.
Oh, yep. Motion to approve the Class B beer license, intoxicating liquor license for drinks.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion again is hereby carried. Review, discussion, action regarding a permanent drain easement agreement with property owner of 765 Glacier Road. If required, the village board of the village of Pewaukee will enter in closed session pursuant to Wisconsin statute section 1885 1E4, deliberating or negotiating the purchasing of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business, whatever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session specifically regarding a permanent drainage easement agreement with the property owner of 765 Glacier Road. After conclusion of any closed session, the village board will reconvene into open session pursuant to Wisconsin section 1985-2 for possible additional review, discussion, and action regarding this agenda item and address the remaining meeting agenda. And also review this,
We're gonna do these one at a time,
okay.
unfortunately. Sorry.
Oh.
Matt, I'm gonna have you introduce the topic, please.
Just, clarify, are we gonna go into closed session, come back out, then have to go back into
Yes.
closed?
Yes.
Wow, that seems
I thought we said
awesome.
we could do them in.
When using the bargaining exception, it's not guaranteed that we would need a closed session. So I'm not gonna have you read both, and then that's gonna cloud the issue. I understand it's gonna be clunky either way, but let's do them one at a time. Administrator.
Thank you, Attorney Gerlinski. So just to give the board and the public some background on this issue, the DPW has been working on a street improvement project in Glacier Road. And during the engineering and design phase, DPW Director Dave Beekle noted some opportunities to improve stormwater conditions. Thank you. Stormwater conditions on the street and for adjacent properties. So he's been working with village engineers to design a swale that would carry stormwater away from the street. In order to construct the swale, which would be on private property, the village would need easements to have access to their stormwater facility. The owner at 765 Glacier Road is requesting a financial payment for the easement, and he has requested $25,000 for what he reports as a decreased value to the land. And those are the facts as they are currently.
All right, so the property owner has made an offer, more or less, related to this easement. If the board is interested in discussing a potential counteroffer or whether a counteroffer is warranted, I think a closed session would be appropriate to have that discussion.
Otherwise, we can just deny it, right?
Correct.
We're not going to closed session. What does the board?
I feel like we need more context and detail from DPW before we make a decision to counter or deny.
And that's information that would be appropriately shared in closed session.
Correct. So
To better explain the context of the village's bargaining position.
I would think that we would be best suited, unfortunately, to go into closed session. Motion to go into closed.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Roll call vote, I'm sorry.
Trustee Grabowski.
Yes.
Trustee Kreiser.
Yes.
Trustee Pater.
Yes.
Trustee Belt.
Yes.
Trustee Rhodey.
Yep.
Trustee Stauff.
Yes.
President Knutson.
Yes. We're in open session.
So we don't need any action on that one? No. Okay.
Review, discussion, and possible action on notice of claim filed by Carol Radzinski. The village board of the village of Pewaukee entered into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin statute section 1985 1G for conferring with legal counsel for the governmental body who is rendering oral or written advice concerning strategy adopted by inclusion of any closed session. The village board will convene into open session pursuant to Wisconsin statute section 1985 2 for possible additional review, discussion, and action concerning this agenda item and to adjust remaining agenda. I look for a motion to go into closed session.
And have Matt introduce it first in open session.
Oh, again?
Just, no, you read it, you're fine. Matt needs to just introduce for there's no citizens in the audience, but the online
We
citizens.
don't have any.
Right, so for the purposes of open session, on July 8th of this year, the village clerk received a notice of claim from Carol Radzinski filed against the village as a result of a trip and fall. And staff took that notice of claim and forwarded it to the village insurance company for investigation and review. And so tonight they have a recommendation that they'd like you to consider.
Motion to go into closed session?
Second.
Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Grabowski.
Yes.
Trustee Kreiser.
Yes.
Trustee Pater.
Yes.
Trustee Belt.
Yes.
Trustee Rhodey.
Yep.
Trustee Stout.
Yes.
President Knutson.
Yes. turn on our microphones. Wait for her to, you ready?
You're in open session.
Okay, do I have a motion, please?
I'd like to make a motion to disallow the request.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We have no more citizens here. No thing, you know, nothing against you guys. Item 10, adjournment.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? We are hereby adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Hope you enjoyed your extra long time today.